Hey, this is Ramon, Channel Alpha 4, and welcome to my Questions 4 series. And if there's any Questions 4 that I've been nervous about and that I've been putting off, it's this one. Um, I'm a little nervous to put this one out, I'll be honest with you. I've asked questions of atheists, I've asked questions of Catholics, questions of Protestants, of evangelicals. I plan on doing other groups going forward. Plan to ask questions of the NRA, plan to ask questions of people who are anti-gun. I plan on asking questions of a whole bunch of stuff. This is the only one, and the very next one is a direct follow-up of this one. This is the only one that I'm actually nervous about doing. Um, okay, so on my previous video, I gave a little bit of my personal background, and I saw that that was a huge mistake, so I'm not going to do that here. Instead, I'm just going to ask my questions. So, welcome to Questions for Feminist. Am I still alive? Did anyone? Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I was able to say that, and I'm fine. Okay. Don't take down my channel, okay? These are just honest questions, okay? So, first, let's go on with question number 1. So, this is going to be a question on terminology. And I want to ask about the patriarchy. Is there a better term for the patriarchy than the word patriarchy? Let me explain. Patriarchy and matriarchy both come from religious terminology to describe the patriarchs and matriarchs of Judaism. That those terms then became politicized, and even very powerful women have been heads of the patriarchy. Here I'm thinking of Queen Elizabeth and Queen Victoria. And then the terms have more recently, although now in the past, become psychological, where patriarchy and matriarchy are talking about the heads of families, such as the matriarch of the family having a lot of power, or the patriarch of the family supporting the family, that kind of thing. Now, patriarchy has come to encompass a sort of ideal of masculinity, and at least in the way that feminism uses the word, and that ideal having a resoundingly negative implication. What I like, the term that I like better personally, is systematic oppression. I think that describes what feminists are describing as the patriarchy much better than the word patriarchy. Because just like how when a religious or philosophical person talks to an atheist or a skeptic, and they use the term truth and fact, and those two terms don't mean the same thing, it leads to a lot of confusion. I can see how the word patriarchy, to somebody who comes from a different background than a feminist background, would have trouble understanding what it is that is being talked about. So is there a better term for patriarchy other than the term patriarchy? For what feminism as a whole currently means by the word patriarchy. Is there a better term? All right. Question number 2, fashion. And now this comes from the fact, and I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do this. I happen to love fashion. Okay, I'm not a fashionable person, but I've always been into fashion since I was about 13. How much, if at all, is feminism tied into fashion? By fashion, I don't mean clothing, how you dress. I mean the fashion movement, like certain logos on the back, or in other cultures like Islam, wearing the hijab is also a political statement. It's not just a religious statement. So how much does fashion play into this? For a while back in the 90s, long before the Free the Nipple campaign, there was wearing bras in public, or not wearing a bra in public, or going somewhere topless. And you saw laws like in New York and Austin and I think California passed laws that were addressing more fashion issues, because the fashion part is tied into the political, at least from my perspective as someone who happens to admire fashion, high end, that kind of stuff. Trendiness, okay, is the next question. So this is question number 3. Does the chic factor bother you, as people will claim a feminist identity without believing in any of its ideals or practice any of its maxims or even follow through on any of its principles. And I'm not just talking here about men that claim to be feminist and really aren't. I'm talking about even women who will use the title feminist for other means, such as political gains, or as some actresses will use that title even though in their personal lives they don't actually have a feminist outlook, but they know that that will lead to certain popularity with certain people, and so that will help their audience. Does that appeal bother you as a feminist? Because it's become trendy in certain circles. There we go. All right. And then here's my last question, and this one's going to be on intersectionality. I happen to have I should say, a very good friend who I was friends with for about 4 years, who was probably one of the, was just a great person, let's just put it that way. And this person was an hermaphrodite. And while we hear a lot about trans issues, and we hear a lot about LGBTQ plus issues, we don't hear, at least I don't hear a lot about hermaphrodite issues. So where do they fall into the intersectionality umbrella? Because I think if any group should be getting the attention that a lot of trans groups are getting, I definitely think it's hermaphrodites, because they're very misunderstood, and there has been much, I would say, medical harm done to them, where people will decide arbitrarily what their sex is at birth, or gender is at birth, whatever term you guys want to use, and then that surgery will be irreparable, and then as it turns out, either biologically or socially, they're more one than the other, and there's no reversing these very extreme surgeries that are done to them when they are children, and they're babies. All right, that's my questions for feminist. Don't kill me, guys. Come on, these are just honest questions. Coming up next week will be questions for anti-feminists. So I'm going to be asking questions to anti-feminists next week. I'm not trying to make a statement here. I'm just simply asking questions. Next week is anti-feminist, and then after that, my next set of questions will go back to the open forum of you guys decide who it is I'm asking questions to. People did request this video about 2 weeks ago, and it took me a while to get up the bravery to actually shoot this. So anyway, peace, like, subscribe. Talk to you all later. Comment down below. Please respond. Please respond in the spirit that I am asking these questions. Thanks.